All right, so welcome to the Strengthology Speaker Series today. Thank you so much for joining, everybody. Today we have with us Bob and Christia, and as you can see on the screen, they share strategic, individualization, and connectedness in their top 5 strengths. And if I expand that a little bit, they also have futuristic and learner as strengths that they both have in their top 10. But we'll just start, focusing on the strategic individualization and connectedness. So first of all, let's get to know you guys. Bob, can you start us off and just share with us who you thought you were going to be in this world, your experiences that have led up to this point, and where you have ended up in your career? And you can even mention how we met if you'd like, but just give the crowd here a little, bit of an understanding of who you are, what you're about, and how we all ended
Okay.
up here today.
Okay. I'm an old guy and I love to talk for a long time, but I'll try to hold it back.
Okay.
And I appreciate the opportunity. So it's interesting that you brought that up about what did you think you were going to do? Because when I was looking at Christia's profile, trying to figure out what kind of things what we might have in common, I actually started out in psychology. And I somehow fell into doing research as a sophomore at UT. And so by the time I got out, I was really cranking, and I went to a year to grad school. When I was in grad school in New Jersey, I figured out that I really liked computers and I want to do that. So I had a 40-year career in started off writing code, then managed customer service turnarounds a few times, and then I did a whole lot of product management, and then eventually ended up building strategic partnerships for a company about 15 or 20 years into my career, and did a whole lot of that. And then I did acquisitions for a while, for about 4.5 years. And it sprinkled in among all that were like half a dozen startups that I joined very early and helped with. And so where I've ended up, I started a software company in 2015 with my business partner around cybersecurity governance. And the way that Brandy and I met was we kept that company going, but evolved into wanting to do consulting at a certain point. And a longtime friend called me up and he says, "Hey, I just took over this software company in Plano. I'm the CEO. It's a small public cybersecurity company." And then he started asking me questions, and he asked me questions every couple of weeks. He'd call back again, and I just happened to have the answers. He hit my sweet spots. And so eventually I ended up consulting for that company for about 18 months. Brandy was there as head of HR, and we met and hit it off. And Jack, the guy that hired us both, said, you gotta meet Brandy. He said, she can talk to somebody for 5 minutes who's interviewing for one job, and all of a sudden they're doing something else and they're really good at it because she understands strengths and all that. So that's how Brandy and I got started, and have kept in touch off and on. The kind of stuff that I do right now is, I've coached people on marketing. I always tell people to be really focused, and if you look at my website, I'm not focused at all. But I work with people. I call it innovative solutions to critical challenges. So I enjoy pulling from that sort of wide, broad experience that I mentioned, and helping people come up with creative ways to attack things that are hard. And
Tell us about this picture that's on the screen.
so the picture's saying that a lot of times I love the picture because it sort of says things are going in one direction, and I like to come in and help figure out, well, maybe there's something different we ought to be doing here, and what is it, and throw out some ideas and help people. Generally, my work ends at the point where they start to actually do it, because I'm not an operations guy, and that'll be real obvious if you look at my strengths. But I'm pretty good on the front end of coming up with ways to think. So I kind of help people. I try to help people come up with a different direction or something that maybe hadn't occurred to them before, it's always them, it's their ideas. I'm just sort of, prodding and spurring, and then we end up laying out processes for how to do it and that sort of thing. So I've worked, in addition to working with the cybersecurity company that was trying to transition from being a services company to being a products company. I've worked with a $2 billion insurance company recently on 2 different projects. One was coming up with a way for their corporate venture fund companies to be able to draw on the parent company for distribution strategy. And so we set up a thing called a distribution accelerator. And then the more recent thing is I helped them in their digital transformation. They needed to get it pushed out in the field and get people using it and taking it up better. And so those are the 2 most recent things that I've done.
So out of everything that you've done, because you've done a lot in the last 40 years,
yeah.
If you had to pick one particular moment, one particular project, or a group of
writing schedules, and I'm gonna go swim.
Oh, we got somebody not on mute. Hold on, let
The
me
lake by yourself?
Yeah, but in Lake Grapevine on the other side,
fix
where
that.
there's more of a beach area and more people around.
God. Everybody's looking like they're on mute.
I know, but that's not a good idea to swim by yourself.
Huh.
Hold on.
Sure.
Be careful.
I don't know.
It's Bill
gone.
Parker. Bill,
Was it Bill?
you're not
Okay.
muted.
There we go.
There we go.
There we go. Okay. Sorry. Okay, so you had lots of time to think there.
Yeah.
Is there one key moment that just really stood out to you as the thing that was just the most fun?
Yes. Some of you, many of you, maybe not, be old enough to remember a company called Novell. It was the leader in early computer networking. And I had a job there that was just incredible. And the reason I look back on it is it's the one that elevated my contacts and my visibility in the industry. I ran a group called Strategic Relations. I had 12 people. We built partnerships with the 25 or 30 largest companies in the industry. And the cool, fun part was I reported to the CEO, Ray Norda. I didn't have to go to staff meetings. I had unlimited budget for travel, and I managed my own calendar. And my job description was go make good things happen. So, I mean,
Wow.
you can't have a much better job than that, I don't
Yeah.
think. And it was real foundational for me, for everything that I've done since.
Interesting. So what good things did you make happen there?
Well, we worked with a lot of different companies. So I was a working manager, of course. Let's see, I did one sales partnership with a large computer company right before I left. And essentially we discovered that our software, the high end of our software, was running on the high end of their hardware and vice versa. So we created basically a slush fund for the field so they could just put in a request, get money, and go put together events. And it was about a $10 million deal. And a gal friend of mine took it over, and I didn't see her until a couple of years later. I said, "Hey, Barbara, how'd that ever work out?" She said, "We generated $65 million in incremental revenue."
Wow.
The next year. So it worked out, I guess.
Yeah, that's fun.
So, but most of them were technology partnerships, though. Like,
Gotcha.
So anyway, it was fun.
Anybody else have questions for Bob? Okay. Christia, can you please do the same? Share with us who you are. We would love to get to know you better today.
Hey, well, I'm Christia, and thank you for saying my name well, but you already know me a little bit. And Bob did the same. Thank you. Definitely cool. And I just love people, just period. I like people. I started out as a coach. I was an athlete in college.
What kind of athlete?
A track and field.
Uh-huh.
I was an All-American long and triple jumper.
Wow.
And I ran the quarter. My senior year, I got to do the heptathlon. I don't know if any of you guys know Jackie Joyner-Kersee, but I competed against her
Wow.
a couple of times as long jumper and triple jumper. So that was my claim to fame. I knew a lot of these people for a while during college years. But I went into study because I am a science buff. I love science, the psychology. I liked bodies. So that's kind of when I wanted to be in physical therapy. I was like, I wanted to push my body to the limit. I was one of the weird persons that liked to work out. So I wanted to stretch. None of the other people did. I was like, yes, let's do it. Let's run till I can throw up. So I like those kind of challenges.
You need to come to my fitness class. I didn't know that about you. This is exciting.
I don't now. I don't anymore. I'm a little bit older and wiser. But yeah, so that's kind of how I matriculated through life. I got into coaching. I thought I was going to be a career coach going from high school. I got to coach here in the DFW in a really good area for athletes. I was at Duncanville High School.
Oh my.
I was a head track and field coach there for almost 10 years. So we had a really good run there. Like that pun, run. Okay.
Yeah.
Anywho, but then I saw that I spent a lot more time cultivating the kids' lives outside and off the track. So I went back to school, psychology, got my master's in counseling education so I could continue to teach. I didn't know I was also going to become a coach of doing that, but I kind of have a coach mentality through everything, even though I'm also a psychotherapist, which after getting all of my education in counseling education, I also did a minor in behavioral interventions because I, like you, Bob, I like the little research. Like I said, I like science. I like to see why things work the way they work. So I did enjoy the behavior intervention piece of, why people are behaving the such ways. So ended up, I have 25 years of education under my belt. I know I'm only 30, but I did. But I did. And I found myself being a special ed counselor in education after my years of coaching. Then I was like, I can't continue to burn the candle at both ends because I was cultivating my private practice at the time. I was just by myself, just, in my own office. I shared an office with a mentor of mine, but then I had started getting too many clients where I couldn't. So because I got bored. And so I kind of like Bob's son, and I did the same with him. And I kind of looked at his website and he was just kind of all over the place saying, Bob, same, man. It's like, oh, that's a great idea. That's a great idea, and I have a book over here that's called My Bright Ideas, and it's, getting thicker and thicker. So I had a lot of ideas to cultivate. So I am also an LPC supervisor, which I am the gatekeeper of who becomes a psychotherapist, and as for the LPC world, with the state and so forth. And so now I have an associate academy where I have 10 associates right now. And I have an intensive outpatient facility in North Richland Hills, which I was able to get up to standard and was joint commissioned. So that was fun, going in dirty, itty gritty and kind of cultivating. And I like how, Bob was putting it as like, I just threw some things against the wall and saw what stuck. And when I saw those arrows, I was like, oh my gosh, everybody's going that direction. And, here's the detour, here's that little nugget. And I take that connectedness with me, with my clients also. I met Brandy because she was working with my partner, Sandy, that's on the call as well. And she was like, oh my God, this is so genius. Brandy is awesome. And she was telling me a little bit about myself. And I was like, oh my gosh, I want to do that too. It took me a little bit of time to, get to the uptake, but man, as soon as I opened up the whole strengthology, I mean, it just was like a roadmap to my mind. I was like, oh my gosh, this is why I think like this. So much so that I wanted to take this to my clients as a coach and life transformation coaches. Starting on the side of psychotherapy, it's helping them, with their traumas and helping them connect those dots and those pieces and heal. But then I have clients that come back that hit blips in the road and they're just like, I'm stuck, Christia. I don't even know what to do with myself. And they're not really in that state anymore. They know that they're going to be fine. It's just like, hey, help me strategize where I'm going right now. So that's just a little bit about me and how I got here.
So what kinds of, like, we all everybody on this call loves to help other people. So what do you look for, specific types of clients that when we come across these people, we should be sending them your way?
Absolutely. And I think it goes through that transformation. So I do have two businesses, as you know, like
of course,
we just said, we're all over the place. And I wanted to be a seamless type of journey for clients. I also have a practice where I'm the CEO and clinical director. I don't take quite as many clients anymore because I have my associates and other LPCs that work for me, and they kind of take the helm there.
Gotcha.
I like to do with my coaching is use strengthology and help them to see their next phase of life. I like to help them with that transformation right now, because when people have this stuck feeling, I call it their SOS. So basically those people that are just like, I think I'm stuck. It's the state of self. Where are you? It's beaming like, hey, help me. I'm in here. Let me out, So I like to help people strategize. So what's the next step? Those people that are like, I know I want to do some stuff, but what's next?
Yeah. And I feel like, for you, what is so good about the education that you bring to it as well is, okay, I care about you when you're in this stuck moment. I care about helping you transform. But I also have the education to help you see where you're getting stuck, right? For real. Because a lot of us are guessing at that. We're going, okay, looks like this is a problem, or it looks like this is a problem, but you have the background and the expertise to say that this is why you're getting stuck. This is where you're getting stuck. So we're going to work through some of these things so that you can get unstuck, so that you can transform, which I think is awesome.
Fun. I love it.
Yeah. Okay. So, let's hop over to the tool really quick. We've got strategic individualization, connectedness. So Bob, if we go back to you here, can you share with us how you specifically feel like you use these 5 strengths in what you do best?
Sure. Happy to do that. I'll talk real quickly about the 2 that we don't share in common. Okay. Because they're kind of easy. One of them is my number 2 is ideation, which means I can literally drive you crazy with new ideas if you want me to. But I'm sure that I get the idea that Christia is probably real strong in that area as well. And then also learner, which means I love to learn. I love to get into a new area. Like I didn't know anything about insurance, and I'm helping a $2 billion insurance company do what they do. So, you got to jump in and get up to speed real quickly. And so that's a real fun part of what I do. Connectedness that we share. I'm always, the way it impacts the stuff that I do is I'm always looking and I almost feel like I just met my alter ego, Christia, because some of the stuff that you said, but I'm always looking for touch points with people that I meet, as well as between friends and connecting them. So it just happens that way all the time. And so, for example, I looked at Christia's profile before the call and, saw a common interest in psychology. I saw the All-American track and field. My younger daughter played scholarship soccer at A&M. But also, I will tell you this, when you said Duncanville, I went, oh my gosh. My daughter was a really good basketball player at Plano East. We lived in Richardson, not too far from where you are. And she had to guard Tamika Catchings at the Duncanville basketball tournament. So
Yes.
that was a height of her career, having to try to take somebody that went on and played pro forever, and went to Tennessee and all that. So anyway,
That's good.
but I'm like you, Christia, in that I love to meet people. Everybody I meet I look at as a potential friend of some kind. And I like to see how we relate and generally kind of look past the differences and find the points of connection and the ways that we can, help each other or gain knowledge from each other or whatever. And so that comes in real handy on the kind of consulting I do, because I have to get in and I learn the people that are there very quickly. One of the first things I did, for example, with that insurance company I mentioned, and it's something I do very often, is I had a meeting. I held a meeting with about 16 or so people, maybe 15 in the room and 3 online. And we went through a strategic positioning exercise that I often use, because a lot of times I find a lot of people's problems is a lack of clarity about what they're doing. And if you can get them all going on the same, on the same path, and they're all agreeing, there's a lot of power and energy and that comes out of that, and a whole lot of clearing up confusion and getting people on the same line. And so that connectedness and that individualization both work together there, because here I'm working on a strategy thing, right, with them, helping them figure out where they're going to go. But I'm also noticing that this gal here in the front row, who's a marketing person, is not real engaged in this and don't know why. And so I start kind of focusing on her and asking her a question and getting her engaged, with the idea that by the end of it, she's got some ownership in what we're doing. So it's that, I don't know if that explains it very well, but it's the combination of those 3 things comes together for me. I like to help people with like the most difficult business and personal situations they face. I do a lot of what you talked about, Christia, just informally and without having any certification at all. But a lot of people come to me, I think mainly because I've been around a long time, and they want to figure out what they're going to do next and what career they're going to do. And I use Strengthology. In fact, Brandy consulted with my son-in-law, who was making a career change out of teaching and moving into something else. And so I find the use of CliftonStrengths just informally, the way I do it, is one of the things I just tell people, here, go spend $15 and get your basic down or whatever it is, and then come back and get the full thing and understand who you are and what your strengths are. And that often helps people figure out a way to go, I think. So
Yeah, so I'm going to point out a few things that I heard as you were speaking.
Okay.
One thing, if I click on the career options over here in the tool, we can see that consultant piece is right there in your top 5 strengths. So that natural consultant within you. And the other thing I heard was that you were really highly focused on the strategy. What's the strategy? What direction are we going?
That's my number 1. So
right. And then it's like, okay, who do we got? Right? The individualization. Who do we got in the room? Who are all the people? Who are the individuals? What are our unique powers sitting around the room? And you're like connecting the strategy with the people. You're also trying to understand what people need to learn in order to be connected to that strategy. And as you start to learn about that individual, then you're able to connect them to the strategy. And at the same time that you've got this all going on, you're coming up with these really interesting ideas of how to solve the problem, stuff around, ideas around what the people are doing, and ideas around what we can do differently in order to move the whole thing forward the way that the executives have told you that they want to move it forward. Does that sound about right?
It's just exactly right. And the other thing that's interesting is, I think it's interesting to me anyway. I early in my career, I started off coding, right, writing software, and I kept getting pushed into management positions. And I didn't want that. I wanted to just do the techie thing. And So the first time I was a manager, I was awful, the world's worst manager ever. There were 8 people in the group, and I did 80% of the work. Another guy did 20, and everybody else sat around with their feet on their desk. So it was not good. But the second time it happened, which was actually the first software company that I went to, somehow I figured out, I don't think somebody just came and told me this. I think somehow I figured out that I could make my life really easy if I could figure out what the strengths and interests were of the people that worked for me and try to mold what we did around that. And then I didn't have to manage them. They were self-motivated, right? So if I could get them to a position of being driven by their own interests and enthusiasm, then, and that has served me well for a long time. The other thing I probably should mention is that year, the years at UT and at Princeton in psychology, and I was in social psychology specifically. There was a lot that came out of that just helped me, I think, be a good manager and a lead and do leadership when I needed to throughout the career.
So when I look at your profile, Bob, I go, the only thing I see really that drove you to do, the programming was the learner. Learners typically love technology because it's changing and you have to keep up with learning it all the time. But your execution is 12 and down. So it shocks me to hear you say that in this first management experience, you were doing 80% of the work yourself. I'm just curious if that felt like awful, if that just really worked against your grain, even if you didn't know it at the time.
Well, at that time, it was so early that I was learning stuff like crazy. And so I didn't mind it. I was learning, if anybody knows about stuff, I was doing assembly language, machine language against the bare metal, right? And I learned so much during that time that I didn't really care. I was just cranking. But you're right. I think that the learner thing has driven me a lot throughout. And I like the thing you touched on that I like, and I'm pretty sure Christia is going to say the same thing, is I like change. I like new things all the time. And what I loved about computers was it constantly changes. You cannot keep up with everything. You just have to do the best you can. And I love that. So.
Yeah, I think that comes from your ideation, your learner, the input, the intellection. All of those are going to love, new things, changing things, just constantly keeping yourself up to date and educated.
Yeah,
that's great.
All right, so Christia, we would love to hear how you feel like you leverage your strengths. By the way, I don't know if you guys notice this when I do these podcasts, but I use their words. So I automatically just switched my word to leverage because I saw she had strategic right at the top. and I think that's really important, right? When we understand someone's strengths and we understand their strength language, in order to engage their brain is to use that language so that when we say something, it makes sense to them and they understand what we're asking them to do, basically.
Hey, Brandy, real quick though, the thing that she has up top is achiever. So the difference between her and me is she gets stuff done.
She loves to work out, Bob.
I do. I was gonna say that. It was, and that was one of the things, is like achiever. Boy, that is just up there, because I was like, oh, no wonder I was like the one, I can't wait till workout because I'm going to learn something new. And I'm with you with that, Bob, for sure. I am all about learning something new. I love it.
Yeah.
It just feeds me. And so my thing when I was younger, and I was not the best head coach at the time either, because my agenda was my agenda. And I was like, I had my athletes in one little area, and that was fine. But then there's a part of being a head coach where you had to deal with your admin. And so you had to come in and, work with them, but I wasn't capable at the time because I would take on more than I could chew because I wanted to learn more. So here's that achiever. So I was a part of all these committees, all this learning, and I would do it myself because I'm like, you know what? It's better to do it myself so no one messes it up.
Absolutely.
So that was my mentality when I was younger. So I was really not the best either. So then I learned, hey, people would tell me, well, tell me I can help you. I can help you. I was like, no, I got it. And so mine is futuristic. So I can get lost in the cosmos of what can be the potential of a lot of stuff. And so it's number 2. So strategic, guys, with my brain going on all cylinders, having these different ideas for people. And it's funny because when I do have a client come in, is like, I don't know what job is going to fit me. You were talking about the same thing, Bob, and I just see a couple of my clients that are just like, I don't know what else is, what I should do. And I'm like, well, what do you like to do? Let's start there. Let's get clear on what you want. What is the goal? Why are you here? Some of the questions that I do ask in the very beginning, whether I'm with my clinical clients or if I'm with my coaching clients, is, so what do you want? That futuristic piece. What is it that you want? What do you desire? What do you want to happen?
And when they tell you that, are you imagining it in your brain? Are you picturing it?
I picture it. I go on that journey. I use visualization. And so once we get Z, the picture of Z, I use that individualization and the connectedness. And I pretty much, and I'm sure Bob has this experience, you can go to Starbucks and start a conversation with anybody.
I do it 3 days. I do it 3 mornings a week. I have a coffee shop that I go to 3 mornings a week, and that's what I do. And it's kind of like, I don't know if the right word is ministry or whatever, but it's reaching out to people and finding out what's going on with them. And if there's something I can help them with, or sometimes they can help me or whatever, but yeah, I love it.
How can I add value? That's one of my themes of my words. Yeah. So, what do you need? Let's figure it out. Everything's figure outable. We can find a way, and that's kind of the mentality.
Yeah, and I think your strategic is the navigation around that.
I am trying to multitask here. Is there something I can do with?
Hold on, guys.
I
found her real quick this time.
Okay.
She's multitasking, by the way.
Good job. He's probably strategic as well.
So strategic is the navigation piece, right? And futuristic is helping those individuals or those clients that come through in forming that plan, right? What is this going to look like 5, 10 years, 15, 20 years down the road? Which enables you to help them make better decisions today, because you can see what their behavior and their decisions, what it's been doing to their life, but also you can probably foresee like what that's gonna look like or gonna do in the future. Is that accurate?
Oh my gosh, spot on. And I can, I'll come up with all these, but I don't put it upon them either, because, with the individualization it has to come from within.
Exactly.
That's not my job to do it for them. That's one of the things I had to learn as I got older, is that I can't do it for them. So when we do group projects, or I'm the lead in that, I'm here to help you find your piece that you put into. We're a big puzzle, and we all have our pieces, who we are and how we put this puzzle together, and we're all going to do it together. And that's what I find myself doing. Hey, we're all connected here. Oh, a ranger, there it is.
Yeah. And I wanted to show everybody that learner is right here, because you were talking about that in the very beginning. I was like, her learner is very strong. It wasn't showing up on top 5, but it's right there at number 6. Yeah. And so what's interesting about y'all's profiles together, I want to show you a view, because so you both have strategic number 1, which tells me that you've run a business, you're going to run a business. When strategic is in top 5, then that's a consideration. But when it's at number 1, it's always there, because strategic see the big picture and they see exactly how to navigate, how to get there. Now, what's fascinating to me is that your number 2s are actually connecting strengths. Okay. They're both very creative. Bob's brain goes idea, 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 and it's very abstract, where Christia, yours is dreaming and picturing what the future is going to look like. It's painting that picture, and highly optimistic. where Bob's is more like ting, 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 ting. It's like these light bulbs just flashing off. But ideation and futuristic are both also entrepreneurial. So when we look at your profiles, we're going, oh my God, these two people are both very entrepreneurial in the way that they think. They do it somewhat similarly, but also somewhat different. So I'm going to show you guys this really quick. If I go to Bob's and I do his unique brand, it says, you generate a plethora of eccentric ideas that result in unconventional creative strategies and interesting ways of doing things. You constantly think of new ways to reach your destination most efficiently. When something changes, you quickly recalibrate and consider all possibilities to come up with a new creative plan. Prioritization of these new non-traditional ideas come easy to you. And then if we look at Christia's, which is still strategic right at the top, but now we've got futuristic, is you are a visionary and strategist who optimistically and clearly imagine your future and then strategically navigates towards the beautiful picture that you have painted. You vividly envision the future of products, services, emerging technology, finances, relationships, etc. You calculate strategic plans and contingency plans that ensure your dreams come true. So
Contingency plans are big for me.
yeah.
So I have A, B, C, D thought of, in the mix of all that. So if we're stuck on an island, Bob, I think we're good.
Yeah.
You guys are good about thinking about it.
We are.
Hey, I got Achiever. We're gonna get off.
Rolling.
You got to have one achiever to get something done. I say it all the time, I mean, I'm a pretty good idea guy, but I always say ideas are cheap, execution is everything. So.
Hey, I love that. I love it.
Yeah. And so then of course you guys have this individualization, this connectedness, this learner. Christia, you would really bring achievement to this particular partnership, as well as your other executions. You come at execution 4 different ways, which is through achiever, arranger, discipline, and responsibility. Really high executionist. And then, Bob, you have maximizer, which is a bit different. And that's that one that really focuses on and finds unintentionally, but you just see who is elite. Who's got that top talent and who could you coach to just take it to that next level. So it's like putting those golden apples on that beautiful tree. Okay, so a little bit different, because Christia, for you, restorative is much higher, where maximizer is lower, which means you're a little bit more focused on, okay, I'm okay working with problematic people with problems, maybe drama, right?
I think I can compare these two. I think.
Yeah.
Okay. I can find really brilliant people like Christia, and she can fix people that are screwed up. Like
there
me.
you go.
So
I was get out of my head, because I was just like, this, like I said, very symbiotic here. Because I'm like, you're gonna get all the max, and you're gonna be right there, and then there's gonna be a little dysfunction some people, and I'm gonna have to coach that part. It's like,
What I think is funny is that you guys are just listening how to leverage one another right now.
Absolutely.
Definitely, I was.
No question.
I was like, next project.
I got futuristic down there too.
You do. I saw it. I was like, okay.
Yeah.
I love it. I like your positivity.
Yeah, you both have positivity pretty high as well.
Oh yeah.
It looks like, Bob, you're a little bit more research focused or savvy. Christia's research function, which is that input, is down to 21, and yours is at number 8. So that's a little bit of a difference.
That makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I love to dig in and go figure it out.
Well, you've also got intellection really high too, which means you love to learn, you love to sponge up the information, and you like to think about things from different perspectives. You just got, learner input and intellection are highly academic.
Yeah. Well, the reason I went to grad school, I was going to be a professor.
Okay.
But I didn't like the politics once I saw what it was like, and decided that academia was not for me.
It does get a little dicey in there from a former academic. Yes.
It can.
Not it for me.
So do you guys have any thoughts around this connectedness strength? What I find kind of fascinating about it when I work with people with connectedness is like, so for Bob, you're going to be connecting strategy, ideas, education, individual unique traits. And Christia, you'll be connecting, strategy, the future, individuals' achievements or deliverables with the education piece. But then also, like, I know you guys both have this sort of economic sense, like when a lever is pulled, other things are impacted or affected around the world, really. I mean, you're tying it from an individual action and how that is impacting the universe, which becomes a little bit more spiritual. Do you guys have anything to add to that?
Well, I'll jump in real quick. You pointed out to me one time, I think, that connectedness has a lot to do with me being somebody who went from being an atheist to being a Christ follower about 30 years ago. So I think a lot of times people that tend to think in those realms, connectedness is probably going to be real important, because I do see things happen for a reason. In fact, that's the reason I've made that transition, was because the earlier worldview I had just didn't work for me anymore. It's like, it's not random. It's not. These things are happening because of this and this and this. So anyway.
Yeah. So the way you see it is that everything is connected. Everything happens for a reason.
Yeah.
We are all here today for some reason, for each one of us.
And we're all connected. We ought to be helping each other too,
Absolutely. That's my thing. You guys took the words right out of my mouth. I totally believe that everything is accidentally on purpose, happenstance, but it's there for a reason. We may not always know what it is, but at the very beginning, but eventually we evolve into the reason, and we know that you had to go through this in order to get there. And I love the connectedness of it, because if we would all really follow our passion and, without fear, without guilt of anybody, telling us we shouldn't out of their fear, as a society, we would be so much better. Not to just, try to change anybody's thought process, but spiritually, it's, if you stay in your lane and do what you're good at, and like me and Bob work together, he's going to find those strengths, and then we're going to work on it to, to firm up those other areas, and we're going to make this society work.
I would add to that, but I think it's implicit in what you said, and that is also always being appreciative of everybody else's strengths, really saying, oh, wow, you're so good at that. I'm terrible. I like knowing you. Help me,
Help me.
Whatever it is.
Right. Take ownership. Know that, look, I'm looking as, at some of our things that I work on really hard to pull to the top. You're looking at all of our strengths here. People don't know what their strengths are. That's why I find that this tool is so invaluable.
And we also don't know our blind spots either, right, Christia?
Yes.
We don't know what we don't know. And that's what I love about this is, like, you can say, well, both of you guys can say, we're not historians.
No.
Maybe harmony isn't the top priority for you. That's not the first thought coming into your head.
Years ago, I took another instrument, Myers-Briggs.
Yeah.
Oh, yes.
And I read the description of mine. The first sentence was, they are never accountants.
Yeah, we do not want you doing our accounting. Sorry, no bookkeeping for you.
For me.
And own it. That's my thing, is you own these things, all the low-lying fruit, or, don't take it personal. That's just not your jam. And it's okay. I'm okay that I'm not a historian.
I don't know if you know this, but when you say take accountability and own it, that's coming all from your responsibility strength, by the way. Yeah.
I just thought of a story about that real quick.
Yeah.
So
by the way, if for anybody on the call, individualization are storytellers. So we're gonna have to listen to these stories.
Man, Bob, we can talk all day.
I'll try to. We should never have a call without having a timer on the end of it. Okay.
Ever.
So I was working at a large company, and I was on this management team, and the company was doing really well. And we would go into these, like, I was responsible for acquisitions at this company, and it turned out to be a success for me. But I was on the management team. There were about 8 or 9 of us, and we would have these meetings sometimes that would go all day, like strategy meetings once in a while, be 8 hours. And we came out of one time, and the guy who was the CFO, Chief Financial Officer, great guy. He said, Bob, he said, I just feel so bad in these meetings. He said, because, you guys are going, oh, we can do this, and you got all these ideas. And I keep going, yeah, but, he says, I'm like Debbie Downer. And I said, listen, we need you in that room. We need somebody to keep us grounded. And we need somebody to help us know what's possible and what's not, and what's practical and what's not. So, cherish the differences. It's like, that's what we have to do with people.
Probably had consistency, deliberative, right? These are those very harmony. Those are all really practical, grounded.
I'm sure. I'm sure he did.
So the other thing I noticed is that discipline was low for Bob, and Christia had it really high. So let's just explore that for a minute. So Christia,
would you not talk to my wife about that?
I won't tell her, I promise. Christia, can you help us understand what discipline means to you?
To me, it's let's get these steps done. And like I was saying with my futuristic, I see Z, but then I also can come back and give you A, B, C, D, E, F, G, and we're going to lock them in, and it's consistent. It's a discipline. And even if, once we've identified someone else that's maybe not quite as disciplined, well, let's pair you up with someone that is. Let's pair you with someone that has this, that's going to put a timer on when me and Bob start talking. Okay, y'all got 5 minutes. Wrap that story up. Let's land this plane. That's what we need, but I'm going to see that discipline part of like, we're going to do this at a time.
I have a question for you, because you brought it up. Because I was recently asked to do this because I've disciplined my top 5. I'm very disciplined. I stay on track. I can be very rigid, right? But the person that asked me to do it was not. And so she wasn't gonna listen to me, right? It's like, I can't impose my discipline on someone, even when they ask, if the person refuses to be disciplined. So how does that work? I mean, do you find it, that you can't impose the discipline, or that it's impossible? And Bob, do you listen to a disciplined person, or do you just ignore them?
I recognized a long time ago that was a weakness.
Okay.
And so I always look to connect up with somebody that's really good at it. Sorry, I got another story. So I got recruited to a large software company in early 2000s to head up overall product direction. Okay, it was a big job. It was like 100 products, 7 product lines. I had 50 product managers working for me. And where was I going with this? What were you asking me? Sorry, I just went.
We were talking about discipline.
Oh yeah. So I don't have very disciplined thinking. So what I discovered when I got there, so I had 50 product managers. Okay, what do product managers do? They talk to customers, they talk to developers, they figure out what next needs to happen with the product. What they aren't necessarily good at is project management. Well, I just love this. The first time I'd ever had it, we had there was another guy, a peer level to me, who ran the project management office, and he had project managers. They took care of setting up the meetings, getting everything signed off, just taking care of all that stuff that me and my people were really just sucked at, So it was great to have, and I've always looked for somebody when I can in my career, have somebody around who's really good at it. So the gal that I introduced to the 360 manager guy, she ended up being his CEO. Well, because she's a get it done person. She had worked for us at our software company, and she completely made us all so much more productive because she kept that focus. She had the discipline, and she set up all that. So I think it's a matter of, you can't change yourself. You can't become all things, but you can recognize what you're good at, what you're not, and then compensate fill in the blanks with somebody, just like, well, I told you the earlier story about the first time second time I was a manager. I also discovered that hierarchy doesn't mean anything. It's really upside down, and you're creating an environment where everybody can be productive, and you're filling in the blanks. So, you just have to be flexible on that kind of stuff. And that's my story.
Well, I'm not, just to interject real quick on what happens with people that when I see that they're not as disciplined, I like to ask from a leadership role is, how can I help you be on time for this meeting? How can I help you make sure you put the right things here? How can I help you, get this task done? That's how I approach it. If there's someone that's, a little laissez-faire, but that's kind of how I approach it, because I can help.
And I'll ask him the same thing. I'll be like, do you want to do this through email, through a calendar, through your phone? Like, there's a lot of ways. I'm not going to force a certain way upon you, but how are you going to know you have 15 minutes until you need to do this thing, right? Like,
exactly. Do I need to give you those little task reminders?
Right. It's like using that individualization that you guys have, right? It's like, what works for you?
May not be the same for everybody else.
Brandy, I have a question for you. I get the idea. I don't think our strengths change much, if at all.
That's correct.
I mean, I think they get set at a certain point early on in adulthood.
Yeah, they are fully formed between the age 14 and 24. That's my understanding. Christia, do you have any further thoughts around that?
Yes, I would say yes. And of course, when we go and look on the clinical side of child development, we do tend to find more higher, an upswing of any type of diagnosis at the age of 18 to 24. So they still have some movement there when it comes to neuropsych, that, you're going to see those budding psychological issues coming out 18 to 24.
Yeah, so they're formed by 24, but that doesn't mean you can't make changes in the future. It just becomes a lot harder, Bob, to start changing things after that point.
I discovered Myers-Briggs, which I took early on, and then I took again in the middle of my career, and I took again down toward the end of my career. They were different. It evolved. So in the middle of my career, when I was managing a lot of people and directing a whole lot of stuff, I was like what they call it, field marshal, ENTJ, which is person directing things and all that. That is not my natural strength. So when I was doing those things, I wasn't really playing to my strength, but I just had to develop that because that's happened to be the situations that I was in.
Which
later on,
it brings up an interesting point of people taking these assessments out of what they're doing and what moment they're in their life and what they're expecting out of themselves in that moment, versus taking an assessment with authenticity of who am I really? What should I be bringing to every job and every environment and every interaction that I have, because it's me. And I do see that, right? When people take the assessment two different ways.
I think go ahead. I'm sorry, Christia.
Oh, I was going to say, I believe that, the circumstance that you're in is going to predispose you to answer differently, because, some of the things that aren't quite as important, even though it's a part of your character that will slowly develop, because we are who we are ultimately, but certain situations are going to make you have to be strategic. You're going to have to figure some things out. Your car is broken down on the side of the road. You may not know what to do, but you're going to have to turn on those switches where you're going to have to become really resourceful. You're going to have to figure out, do I call AAA? Oh, I don't have AAA. Oh, do I need to try to fix this myself? A learner, I'm going to have to self-learn how to fix my tire, but it can be at home.
A good example that I think for that is like my own personality, for example, is very introverted, but I live in an extroverted world. I live in an expectation to be extroverted. And if I want to be successful, I have to be somewhat extroverted. So I've even had people tell me, there's no way you're introverted. You're so extroverted. I'm like, right now, in this moment, because I have to be, right? So I find, how can I use my strengths to become extroverted in those moments? But that's not really where I'm at my best or who I am to the core. Is that what you're saying, Christia? Is that a good?
It's a great analogy. Great, right? Spot on. Because I am saying, and matter of fact, I didn't know what I was doing until Brandy, you brought this up to me though. It was like, I was talking to you about myself and some of our, these strengths that I have. And you were like, well, that's probably because you are 60% introvert and 40% extrovert.
Yes.
And people are like, what? And it made all the sense in the world, because after I do a speaking engagement, especially if I'm in person and, some numbers and they start to hit, upper and into that 20s and 30s, when it starts getting bigger, I need a break. I have to shut down.
I don't know if you guys have read Susan Cain's book, Quiet, that came out about a decade ago, but it's incredible. And one of the examples she uses in there is, she said a lot of great public speakers are introverts. And they enjoy the speaking because they have control of everything and they're on top of it. What they hate is when they have to then come down off the stage and go talk to people one-on-one, and it wears them out.
Oh my gosh. Hello. Yes, I need to read this. Susan Cain. I'm gonna have to read that.
Susan Cain, Quiet.
It's
It's about the value of introverts to business. It's really good.
Oh, I love that.
You guys, is there any questions on the call? We've all just been chatting here. We only have 3 more minutes. So I just want to ask if there's anybody on the call that has a burning question they'd like to ask these guys today.
Well, I always have questions, but this was the first time where we've had 2 speakers that are about like at my level of talking. And so I think if there was a conference and I was able to sit down with these 2 people, we would close the bar. Everything that
I do that on occasion.
Yeah, everything that we would talk about. Though I had one thing that I wonder about, because we have some things in common. One, I put in my LinkedIn, so if y'all are open to it, I'd love to connect with both of you.
Sure.
But in the chat there. But 2, woo is really low on mine, and I noticed that woo is really low on y'all's.
Yeah.
And I was wondering, a lot of people would think we'd be high in woo because there are people that are like fans. Like I've gone to conferences where people like gravitate towards me and just want to hang out with me. Yet there are people who are equally, I won't say repelled, but equally have no interest at all in hanging out with me at all. And I'm wondering if y'all have the same experience.
I can tell you one thing. Here's my opinion of it. My older daughter, her number 1 is woo. And I noticed from the time she was a kid, she can be in a room full of people and they don't even know it, but they all start doing what she wants to do. I mean, she influences the room, but in a good way, and positive, strong, recognizes each one of them. She's got really strong EQ. I mean, but woo is, to me, that's the woo. At least I don't know the technical definition of it, Brandy, but the way I see it played out in her life is that people just gravitate toward her and they want to do what she asks them to do without too much pushing.
Christy, I want to hear from you on this, because I think Sandy has woo, right?
Yes, she is. My life partner, my wife, she is a woo, and all the way up there. And when we first met, it was just like everybody, she could draw a crowd. She calls it being extra guacamole. I am so not that. I would scale the sides of the wall before I would walk through the middle of a crowd. I have to really have my hat on of like, okay, I'm doing this, guys. But it's funny because she would be like a buffer, because like you were saying, Jay, it was, you have the fan people that want to keep talking. And I was like, oh, but I'm done. But I'm finished talking, but she would run interference for me and be like, and I just love it. It made me just feel so seen, because it's usually because I'm freaking out and getting ready to like, please just let me have some water and just breathe. Because usually I don't breathe when I'm speaking up for some reason. It's just like, go, 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 go. I'm being attentive to the crowd. So, and I'm very empathic as well. So it's just, like you said, man, they want to talk more, but she'll come in and swoop and save the day. So I don't know what it is, that woo that people have. And I don't know the real definition, but I feel it.
But they do get a lot of energy out of new people, social situations, and getting people
winning others over.
and influencing them. So it's just that is such a fun moment for them versus, the people that are more introverted that just, it kind of sucks the energy or sucks the life out of them a little bit.
True confession, I love working a conference and finding people and getting their cards and following up and meeting with them and all that kind of good stuff. So I'm obviously a lot more extroverted.
Could you do it all day, every day?
No, I used to be like, I think I used to be probably 90% extroverted. I'm probably more like 65 or 70% now. But
You'd get bored, Bob. You couldn't do it all the time.
That part, you're absolutely right, Jay. I get bored with that stuff. I mean, I go to them a lot of times. I'm real fired up, and then I come home and I say, "Why did I do that?"
What was I thinking?
Anything else from anybody in the crowd today? We had a great crowd. Thank you all so much for coming.
Yeah.
Well, I've got connectedness and woo.
Ooh.
So
I think so.
yeah, I get energy from other people. And the deal is I'll go in and I'll meet all these people and they'll feel real close to me. I'm close when I'm in the moment with them. Then it's like I don't remember their names afterward and all that sort of stuff. But I'm all, I mean, it's just so natural for me to say, oh, you've got to have this shampoo, or you've got to meet so and so, and you've got to learn about this. And so
yeah, you have high communication too, I believe, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, communication's my number one. So yeah, I'd be closing out the bar with the both of y'all.
It would be a fun conversation. I know that for a fact, because the psychology, I'm like, yes, computer programming, everything. Both of you, I was like, yes. I could I was controlling myself not to step in because
you did great. I didn't even know you were on the call, Jay.
Yeah, I know. I was
Good job.
I was like sitting there going, oh my gosh, these people are awesome. I could spend hours with y'all.
I thought the same thing.
They are awesome.
Question.
Oh no, another story.
No, I don't have a story.
No, that's me.
So,
they were like, oh no, don't get him started.
So with the connectedness thing, that kind of gets into that spiritual connecting with people and everything. But where do you think it comes in, Brandy? And this is just for you, is I know a lot about a lot of stuff because I read a lot. And so I think that's a part of my ability to talk to anyone, when I'm when I'm in a good space and like closing down the bar, I can talk to anybody all day. But, so where does that come from? What do you think?
I actually think you guys both have a strong desire to be able to connect with all walks of life. With the individualization and the connectedness. They're both what I would call global strengths, where they appreciate people from different genders, different religions, different countries, different professions, both of those strengths. And you guys have them both. And so I think there is this desire to understand from an anthropology perspective, these different cultures and these different customs. But then there's also this desire to be able to connect with the janitor and the CEO, et cetera, et cetera. And so because you guys have this desire, this underlying desire, you go and do whatever is necessary to be able to do that, which could be learning, reading a book, interacting with these people, learning from other people who have had these experiences with these other cultures that you want to get into. But because of the desire, you're automatically going and getting the information or the tools and resources that you need to be able to do that function.
Gotcha.
That's the way I see it.
I feel that. Totally. Thank you.
Of course. All right. I'm going to let everybody go. It's 3:05. My discipline is ringing the bell right now.
There you go. Yep. You're late.
So thank you so much for coming. We do have a break next week. It is Memorial. Take a break, guys. Enjoy a Monday off, and then we'll get back together in June. And please feel free to reach out to Christia or Bob. They are so wonderful, and they'll be happy to talk with any one of you.
Yes, I would love to.
Brandy, you rock. Today's
you, Jay.
speakers, I mean, I'm excited, but wow, did you blow it through the roof today? Because I'm
Awesome
like, these
job,
two
guys.
people are
High
amazing.
five.
Thank you.
I encourage everyone to go to a Memorial Day function of any kind. And
There you go,
Yes.
Mr.
Load.
Wu.
please do.
Carry the load. Carry
Yeah,
the
Yeah.
Riverside Park, I'll see you there.
All right. Bye.
Bye,
care.
Bye.
everybody.